Hey, and welcome to Matt and Jess TV. I am Matt Roast here with Jessica Bunbun, and this is a very special Only Murders in the Building theory video because, sort of like those old infomercials that would come on at midnight, you're getting two theories for the price of one here.
Oh, that's a good sell.
Yeah. Okay.
Because it's true. We're going to be talking about Cookie,
Yeah.
who we haven't spoken that much about, but she was on the murder board. For those of you who don't remember Cookie, Cookie is Charles's ex and Saz's ex. And we have a little bit of information on Cookie and why Cookie is involved or could be involved in what's going on. And the other theory we're going to be talking about, Mabel's aunt, and we've
Yes.
spoken about her a little bit throughout the seasons of, what's going on with her. But there's a lot of people out there that think that Mabel's aunt has a way bigger role to play, even though we have never seen her. Same with Cookie. We have never seen her.
I am one of these people that thinks that Mabel's aunt has a much bigger role potentially down the road at some point in what is going on. But this is going to be a really fun video. We are going to be bouncing and talking about these different theories. But before we get too far into either of them, hit that subscribe button because not only are we doing 3 Only Murders in the Building videos a week, but this is also a very exciting and busy week for us here at the channel because this is the launch of American Horror Story's latest Hulu-ween event on Hulu. You know, if you're watching Only Murders, you already have Hulu, so there are 5 new episodes. These are all standalones. You don't need to see any other season of American Horror Stories or American Horror Story in order to enjoy them.
Yeah, so hit that subscribe button. Make sure you don't miss all of those videos that we have up at the channel already for you. So, but also, if you want to see our Penguin coverage, we are covering that exclusively over on our Patreon is the only place that you can check those videos out. It's a great way to also help Matt and I here at the channel to continue to do what we're doing here, bringing you guys all these videos each week. And thank you so much to everyone who has supported us. It means a lot to us.
Thank you guys so much.
Let's start with Cookie. So anybody who doesn't remember, here's sort of kind of a background on that. So Charles, when he was working on Brazos, was dating Cookie. Cookie was his girlfriend. And at that time, Saz was also there, and she began having an affair with Cookie behind Charles's back. And it was a little contentious, to say the least, for a while there, because then Charles had to spend, multiple more seasons with Saz while Saz was shacked up with Cookie, which was really difficult for, I think, probably Saz as well. I mean, Saz ended up in a really long relationship with Cookie. It was like 20 years they were together. So, I mean, it was a pretty serious relationship, which is probably why Charles moved past it. I mean, it was like, okay, it's one thing if it's like, oh, they're having, just a fun time hookup. And then it's another thing if it's like a decades long relationship. There was clearly something there, but eventually Cookie left Sass for another man. And she ended up, cheating on her and leaving her for another man. So this is the thing about Cookie.
Yeah.
We don't know really a lot about Cookie. We know that Cookie was involved with both of these people. We know that Saz is the person who got killed and that Charles was possibly the intended target, and Cookie is connected to both of them. And that's why Cookie was on the murder board. And here's where it gets really interesting. So some of you guys noted in our comments that when Howard was at the bodega looking through the ledger to see who was there as Dudenoff signing off, Cookie's name is there. And so I went back and looked because I was like, oh man, we totally didn't see that. It went, went by so fast. We didn't see it. Cookie's name is absolutely there. It's like, and beside it, it says personal, P. Lazazaria. I don't know what that is yet. However, I will say that Cookie had 3 amounts of money that were taken out from that bodega, $500, $1,500, and $925. So she's been there either multiple times or she took it out all at that same time.
There are a lot of interesting questions and things to unpack here. I think just starting with the idea that, okay, if Cookie has had relationships with both Saz and Charles, is there a reason that she would want to take one of them out? is there a situation here where you can argue, is she taking this money out because she's paying someone in order to take them out? Because that's
Right.
something you're probably not going to be like, hey, Mr. Bad Person, I'm going to write you a check that's going to trace back to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like a super amount of money, but
Yeah.
maybe she paid somebody who was willing to do it for a couple $1,000s and was like, okay, we'll
Mhm.
take care of this. I mean, we know that Cookie left Saz for another man, but we don't know that like how bad that relationship got by the end, or what was happening, or how Cookie felt about Saz by the end of this, or if she felt betrayed in some kind of way by Saz. Saz feels that she was, the person who was wrong done by, which, yeah, you shouldn't be cheating on Saz. That's fine. But you also were fooling around with Cookie while Cookie was with somebody. So, I
Mhm.
kind of like, you get what you get, right? Like, you're
Yeah.
going to cheat with somebody, then, don't be surprised when they cheat on you.
Well, one of the things we've emphasized, even in our videos this week, is just that Saz was a beloved character in the Only Murders world,
Right.
but even though she's gone, we also can't forget about the fact that she had some morally questionable things, to
Right.
put it lightly, in her past. Like, Saz was no saint, and
No.
because we know that Saz was no saint, that does raise the possibility that there could be other people in her past who also experienced these less than great actions from Saz, and then would want to do something like this.
Right. So is Cookie behind it? I feel like it's possible now, especially if this is the same Cookie in the ledger that's been taking out these large amounts of money. Then it's
Mhm.
kind of like, yeah, what are you paying for? It's like almost $3,000.
I think at the very least, they do not want us to forget about Cookie. I don't think anything we
No.
see in Only Murders is just some woo coincidence.
No. We even had like the whole Ben versus the cookies in
Yeah.
season 3. I feel like that connection is still a connection.
Well, and this is the ironic part of this, because I think this is the one connection that exists between Cookie and also Mabel's aunt, is just that I think they have characters that the producers are sort of saving for the right moment so that they can bring them in, cast a particularly big name, because they love to do that at this point,
Mhm.
and then have them sort of burst into the walls like the Kool-Aid man and start being like, oh yeah, here's what's happening now. And if Cookie is somehow involved in all of this, and she might be working with some people we already know, I think they would probably have it be a big surprise, have some big name play Cookie, and that way to make that reveal a little bit dramatic and even different from what we've seen these past few seasons.
Welcome, Catherine O'Hara, to Only
Oh
Murders
my
in the
God.
Building as Cookie. I would die.
Okay, I have a
Happiness.
couple.
I would ascend to heaven.
I would have a couple of requirements if this is to happen. Number one, I don't know how it happens in the show, but Eugene Levy needs to interact with her. But no, I think that would be really, really fun.
Yeah.
So have Cookie on your mind, and maybe you
Yeah.
have cookies on your mind too. Go to your nearest bakery, and I don't know, that here's my problem. When I was trying to do research on Cookie, every time I was trying, I kept getting those stinking cookies from last season. It was very hard.
Speaking of cookies, we had a really good cake this weekend. It was
Yeah.
Matt's birthday. Happy
Woo!
birthday, Matt.
It was great, great. I had such a good time in that hall. It was a lemon cake. It was so, so good.
Yeah, it was.
Okay, Mabel's aunt. This is a complicated theory. I'm going to say that from the start. So we're going to go on a little bit of a journey here
Yeah.
before I get to sort of the big reveal, but it's important. We got to set the table a little bit to what is going on.
Mhm.
So first and foremost, let's go back in time here to the
Boop,
start
boop,
of the
boop,
show.
boop, 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 boop.
Oh,
Okay,
right.
we're back.
We are back in season 1. There's not a lot of backstory on Mabel's aunt, but she
Mhm.
has been a part of the show off screen since the very, very beginning.
Yes.
We know that she has lived at the Arconia for an extremely long time, to the point that when Mabel was a lot younger, she would spend a lot of time on school breaks there at the Arconia with her aunt instead of back in Long Island with her mother. And, this character named Salma has never been on screen, which, by the way, the name Salma is probably why there's a lot of people that are like, oh, Salma Hayek should just play her. I have a different casting suggestion we will get to a little bit later on.
Welcome, Catherine O'Hara. No, I'm kidding, guys.
Catherine O'Hara is actually
She's going to be everybody.
She's going to play every guest star in season 5. It's going to work out just fine. So Mabel was initially, like, her whole basis of the show was that she was living in the Arconia to help renovate it while
Mhm.
her aunt was away. And, my kind of big picture idea on a lot of this was just that, okay, only murders in the building needed to establish how somebody like Mabel, who didn't really have much of a job, was young, was single, like how she was able to live in this extremely expensive place
Mhm.
in Manhattan. Like, I've looked up the kind of average price of an apartment in the real life building that's the basis of this show. We're talking like 7 million, 8 million. We're like an insane amount of money that
Right.
obviously Mabel would not have.
Right.
Now, in season 3, this aunt makes the decision, after Mabel's done all this renovation, okay, we're gonna sell this apartment now, which kind of raises one question that we will go back to later as well, which is Mabel's aunt a not great person? Because it seems to me, yes, she let Mabel live there, but at the same time, she also basically threw her to the curb the moment her work was done. We've not seen any evidence that Mabel's aunt actually helped her find a new place, consoled her, like, did really anything.
And I think it's tough too, because I mean, New York City in general is just so expensive to
Yeah,
live in that it's like, let's say Mabel's aunt did get like $7 million for this place. She could have
yeah,
thrown, 500,000 at Mabel, and Mabel still wouldn't be able to buy anything there. Like
yeah.
she would just be kind of going month to month until it's gone. That might last her a year. Like it's so expensive there. So is Mabel's aunt a jerk for selling the place, and then it means that Mabel is kind of out on the street? No, it's her
Hmm.
property to do what she needs to do with. We don't know the reason why she sold it. Maybe she needed it for something else. Maybe whatever. We don't know anything about her. That's the
Yeah.
problem, right? So, maybe.
I think what makes everything with Mabel's aunt a little more interesting when you kind of dig underneath the surface of a lot of stuff here is that we know she has money, and yet Mabel's mom really doesn't have money. It's
Right.
mentioned back in season 1 that, she's worked a ton of different jobs, which she regrets because she didn't have a lot of time to spend with Mabel. She seems to even regret Mabel going and being in the Arconia because
Yep.
of all the sort of chaos that unfolds there. Zoe stepped back in season 1, but it also raises another interesting question here, which is Mabel's aunt. It seems like there's some tension there between her and her mother. And
Mhm.
what is the source of that? Is it financial in nature? Or does Mabel's mom know that her sister may have a few secrets, may have either gotten some money in a not so great way, or is
Yeah.
inherently selfish and has some sort of issue? And there's something else beyond just, oh, you were at the Arconia, everything happened with Zoe, I regret this. Is there a little bit more of a hanging thread between these women that is going to play out a little bit later on down the road?
And it absolutely can. I mean, at the very base, I mean, money rips families apart all the time.
Yeah.
And we don't know how Mabel's aunt got this money. We don't know what kind of tension that it's caused, and we don't know if there's something else on top of the money.
Yeah, there is a clear amount of tension here. There is an issue that came out of Mabel even doing the podcast, which her mother
Mhm.
was very, very against at the time in which they first discussed it. And we haven't seen a lot of discussion from Mabel's mother since. She hasn't been on the show
Right.
in a pretty long time. So
Yeah.
we don't really know exactly what that relationship is. And we also don't necessarily know what she feels about Mabel continuing to be in this podcast world now. And she
Mhm.
could have a certain amount of disdain over it because she might know that something could be uncovered, or she might just feel like her daughter's constantly in dangerous waters. But the reason that all this tension is interesting goes back to episode 7 of this season. We see Charles and the trio go to Doreen, go to Melissa McCarthy. They don't go to Mabel's mother. There's not even a
Right.
lot of discussion about Mabel's mother, and she's close by. So what's going on there? Are the producers just like, we want to have Melissa McCarthy, and that's the only thing that matters?
Correct. That is what happened. I mean, we have people that have just completely disappeared. Where's Oliver's son? Where's Lucy? I mean, there's people that just showed up and now just poof, gone.
Okay, now this is where things start to get a little bit fun because the producers, like with Cookie, they have kept Mabel's aunt off screen for a long time for a very good reason. And this
Yes.
is that they have a plan. Season one was a really big backstory season for Mabel with
Mhm.
Tim Kono. She was sort of the lead of the mystery in that sense. Season two was more the Arconia itself. Season three was Oliver. Season four was Charles. If season five is the final season, or whenever the final season is going to be, I think we're going to be circling all the way back to Mabel, and it is going to be Mabel focused again.
Nice. Nice.
Here is it. It's time, everybody. Let's rip the band aid off.
Uh-oh.
Mabel's aunt is going to be the next victim. She is going to be the next person
Oh.
who dies. And the reason why is pretty simple. She has lived at the Arconia for a very, very long time. She left the Arconia, went away for some reason, allowed Mabel to live there, to get it to a good enough spot because she wants to make money. I mean, there's clearly an element of selfishness there. But because we know there's an element of selfishness there,
Mhm.
I think she's also covering up potentially something that she knows, something that she's seen, because maybe it's not anything she needed to worry about. Maybe it's something that she's ashamed of. Maybe it has a little bit to do with a relationship she may or may not have had with other people in the Arconia, including perhaps the big bad at the center of this entire show, who we know has been at the Arconia for a very long time, who we know also does not want Mabel to continue to do this podcast. Lester.
Let's
Lester is
go.
the big bad. Lester and Mabel's aunt have a history.
Matt, you are cooking.
I don't know what I'm cooking. I may be setting the kitchen on fire with this theory, but it's just too juicy to pass up on. Now, am I sitting here and saying Mabel's aunt knew that Lester was necessarily the 6th Avenue slasher, which is something we suggested in the video last week? I'm not sure of that, because the idea that Mabel's aunt knows that Lester is basically just out killing people and she's not turning him in and she's letting her niece live there. Like, that to me, she'd have to be a really, really horrible person for that.
And she might be.
She might be. Like, I'm trying to sort of couch this a little bit and thinking that she might know that something is awry, but because she cared about Lester once upon a time, that she did not really want to entertain everything. And she might have been a little bit worried about some stuff that happened in season one, provided if she ever even found out about it. But
Yeah.
but then, these last couple of seasons, there haven't been as many quote unquote loose ends. There hasn't been as many references to a big bad, especially in season three, which is when, lo and behold, that's when she sells the apartment. She might think that everything is just sort of buried in the past at that point.
Or maybe she's selling the apartment at that point to be like, well, if I sell this apartment, then Mabel has to leave, because where is she going to stay? She won't be at the Arconia anymore. So that would probably end the podcast. Little, of course, does she know that Oliver would be like, of course, come stay with me.
Yeah, she's not seeing the forest through the trees here at all. But now in season four, we're seeing this big bad emerge more and more. How much of this is going to be included in the podcast? Like, that we know already from this past episode, that the Westy stuff, they're letting a lot of that slide. They're not including all of that. But are they including still the messages from Saz's phone? Are they still including these other little tidbits? Because if they are, that may cause Mabel's aunt to sort of be like, oh no, this stuff really isn't gone. And I think for a lot of people, the longer you sit with things, the more and more guilt can kind of drive you. And I think at a certain point here, whether it's the end of this season, the end of whatever season that is the season before the show ends, she is going to come to this realization that's just like, okay, my niece is actually in danger. I might be setting myself up. I might go to prison for this, but I have to actually go and tell her the truth behind what it is that I know and start to point her in the right direction. She starts to do this. Maybe she shows up at the Arconia.
Yeah, she's probably, I would think, show up for the wedding. Like, if like, we've been saying that we think that whoever's going to die next is probably going to die in the finale at the wedding.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, then maybe she's crashing the wedding. Maybe Mabel's invited her to the wedding, like, and that's how it'll happen, where she's like, I need to warn you.
And here's the problem, who's going to be greeting her when she walks in that door? Lester, who is going to be like, I haven't seen you for a while. Why are you back? Lester's going to take her out. She's going to be the next victim. Mabel's then going to have to figure out what to do about that. But the reason why this is not just me pulling Mabel Zan out of a hat here, it just being like, oh, we're going to kill her next. It's because they have to establish some sort of way where the trio can actually unravel who the big bad is. And right now, they don't really have enough. All they really know is that this is somebody who's clearly in the building, who has been in the building for a long time and wants them to stop doing this. Like, that's the biggest piece of evidence they have.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I think that Mabel's aunt is going to be the next victim. I think they're setting this up so that it's a really personal story for Mabel, but it's also a story that really brings us back into the history of the Arconia, because I have to believe that John Hoffman and the writers have at least seen the criticism for this season, which is just that it's too outside the building, it's too laden with all these guest stars. We want Ursula back, we want Uma back, like all these people, including people like, I would assume, Teddy, who we haven't seen for a while. Like, they would all kind of prove important here.
Where's Theo? I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, yes, absolutely. I feel like the Arconia is a character that is part of this world as well.
Yeah.
Like, they need to definitely, if next season is the final season, which they haven't said, so who knows, that they really bring us back to the Arconia. And I mean, they did a better job this season than they did last season.
Yes.
Season 3 was my least favorite season, and it's just, I enjoyed the theater aspect of it, but it wasn't Only Murders in the Building for me.
Yeah, I'm enjoying this season too. Like, this season still has the potential to maybe be my favorite since season 1, but it all depends on how they stick the landing, because I think the landing on season 2 is a little bit messy. But casting, okay, I know a lot of people have said Salma Hayek. I mean, she would be great. I'm going to throw out there, welcome Penelope Cruz to Only Murders in the Building. I just think a really big name. It'd be fun to see her in a comedy. I think she has like some physical resemblance to Selena. I could see her effectively playing her aunt. I know it's funny in a way, because I remember when Eva Longoria was cast, everyone thought that she was playing Mabel's aunt back when, before it was like, oh, she's actually playing the most unexpected person, Eva Longoria.
Yeah.
That's her role. No, but this is where I'm standing with Mabel's aunt. Historically, the show always kills somebody else off in the finale. So we are going to get our answer here soon enough.
Very soon. I mean, we only have a couple episodes left.
Okay, so that's where we are on Mabel's aunt when it comes to Only Murders in the Building season 4, in addition to Cookie. I still can't believe there are only a couple of episodes left, but be sure to hit that subscribe button, because you can see our preview for episode 9, as well as our review for episode 8 if you haven't had a chance to catch that already. Also, as we noted earlier, the entire new season of American Horror Stories is upon us. So be sure to check out those videos. Are there some great episodes? Are there some duds? This show is really unpredictable, but we go into all of that in our review. So be sure to check that out. Join our Patreon for exclusive coverage of The Penguin. We have that link in the description. And thank you so much to our patrons for your support.
Thank you.
We'll see you here next time.